Talking with today's guest was like speaking with a master musician who doesn't know any other way of being because music is their craft, it's their life. But for Steve, his craft isn't music necessarily in this, it's pleasure and female pleasure in particular. So this episode is mostly going to be for the conscious sexuality educators listening, or anyone interested in the background of early influences of conscious sex practices, and also for those in the process of experiencing pleasure in the process of aging, especially when it comes to Alzheimer's and the connection with pleasure that Steve made in his previous partner's experience. So Dr. Steve Bodansky is 50 years, 50 years into a technique that he was part of developing centered around female pleasure. He's an OG of the conscious sexuality educators. And I first heard about him when I was studying somatic sexology back in, I think it was 2009. And the technique that Steve has been most known for that centers around female pleasure is clitoral stroking, but not just that, also internal massage as well, where you really, really, really take your time and where a woman's body gets to authentically experience full arousal, something that so many women today are not regularly experiencing, if at all. And so Steve does have explicit instructional videos that are for sale on his website, and it's actually linked below for you if you want to have a look at it. He's also got other courses and many, many books on the subjects of sensuality, intimacy, pleasure. He's even got some fiction, erotic fiction, different stories that he's written. And the group that Steve is from, developed their own language, their own curriculum in the early days of sex education. So something that's really lovely about Steve is that he continues to be creative. And I think he's released another book since we actually recorded this podcast episode between now and then. And also in this episode, he says something that I've personally never heard from a man before, that with so much emphasis on female pleasure in the practices that he's taught and lived for so long, that he actually has a preference for that over penetration sex because of, well, I'm assuming because of the depth of connection that he experiences through women because of this. And from my perception, the depth of love that's created through the aging process, as he describes it. And that's something just incredibly beautiful. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Dr. Steve Bodansky. Welcome to this provocative and heartfelt podcast, where patriarchy is defined as a paradigm that both men and women uphold in different ways. Here you get to listen in on genuine conversations between leaders from around the world to discover more mutual respect and less division, as well as more pleasure and love in your life. My name is Devashi Shakti, and you are warmly welcome to be part of these Beyond Patriarchal Sex conversations. All right, so Dr. Steve Bodansky, I believe you've been actually teaching for 40 years, I think on this path for 50, but teaching for 40. And Steve, you're known for extended massive orgasm work, which originated at Morehouse. Um, so does that belong, extended massive orgasm, to Morehouse, or is that your take on it and your brand as such?
That's an interesting question. But they didn't call it that. They called
Okay.
it a course where they had a 1 hour orgasmic demonstration, which is similar to what we do, but they called it the fundamentals course. And
Okay.
then Vera and I started our own group after we left, and we called the course Observation of intense coming, or OIC course. And then we wanted to make a new name for it when Vera and I split off from them and just did our own thing. So we wanted to call it, we made a video, we wanted to call it the demo. So I was looking for an acronym for demo that included, this intense, long orgasm. And that's how a demonstration of an extended massive orgasm came about. And then I wrote our first book, and I wanted to call it The Art of Sensuality, because it's basically a book about, a lot of background, a lot of philosophy, psychology, and then also a lot of descriptive techniques on how to give and receive pleasure. So we called it The Art of Sensuality, but they saw that I wrote that we do this course, the demo course, and I said that's a better name. So they changed. So the book became Extended Massive Orgasm. It sold all over the world. It's translated, so it was a big hit back in 2000. So that's how
Okay.
it came. So I'm Dr. EMO because
Yes, and I have a little history here of your colorful CV. Um, so I wrote here in my notes that you're the OG. You're an OG of conscious sexuality from America. You're also a scientist and one of the early pioneers of orgasmic practice exploration. And so I understand you went to medical school and you have a master's in molecular genetics. But then
I do, but I have not really used it except for, I like to read about science. I wasn't very good at actually doing the experiments. Kind of boring. And, you had it back when it was back in the mid 70s, and they didn't have all the great machines they have now. So
okay.
everything with these it was just, I wasn't good at it.
I,
I was good at the theory, but I preferred when I found out about this pleasuring and being pleasured and extending orgasms. That was a lot more interesting to me. So I,
yeah.
I changed professions.
Yeah, because a master's in molecular genetics, that indicates that you've got quite an amazing intellect. But then I saw you got even smarter because you got a PhD in pleasure, focusing on
Yeah,
female
more.
pleasure.
I was in a doctoral program for molecular. I dropped out. I just took the master's and said that was enough.
Sure, sure. Yes, so you're known for the EMO work and conscious pleasure-based sex education. Yes, and there's 15 books, is that right, that you've written?
Actually, there's 18. Some of them are poetry books. Some of them are novels. Most of them are how-to books. But I wasn't even, I didn't like writing actually. I couldn't read my own handwriting. But when computers came out, I had no more excuses.
Well, 18 books is quite something. I'm looking at beginning my first soon, so I'm impressed. And some things I noticed about you, Steve, is looking at a few of your interviews before today, is just how relaxed you are in yourself. And I feel so much kindness from you. And
I think it's all a charade. I think inside I'm like tense and nervous. Yeah,
really? That's so sweet that you share that.
but talking to you, I feel you make me feel comfortable. So maybe it's you.
Well, that's a big compliment, but I see that in you in many interviews, and it's a bit of a testament to the power of orgasm, isn't it? Because you've had a long time immersion working with something that really does shift our brain state and states of consciousness.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I could thank Vera because she was the one who was having the orgasm most of the time. I was just I'm good at having them too, but I wasn't. I never went on stage and did it. There's never been a man on stage.
There's
As far as
never been a man on stage. Yeah.
I think it's illegal anyhow. It's probably illegal to have a woman on stage too, but
These days, possibly, yes. And I'd love to get into that more, like why was the only the woman on stage and things like that. But first, just to kind of place you in the field for people that maybe haven't heard of you before, maybe they're newer to the scene. Um, I think you've had quite a lot of well-known teachers and authors cite you as a major mentor and you know, have been very influenced by you. And I know that one of those people is Mama Gina. She
yeah,
called you a sensuality expert and a mentor for her work with pleasure that she went forth and did with women. And who else that's quite well known that pe people might recognize that have been your students?
well, Christiane Northrup, do you know her?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's- not that many famous people or people you have heard of it. There's another author, Dave Ellis, but you probably don't know. He's more into the coaching. He's
Okay.
a life coach. He coaches coaches.
Okay.
He wrote he wrote some best-selling books though before he met us. I think he
Okay.
stopped writing this.
Yes. Yes, and even indirectly, I imagine that the ripple effect that Morehouse created travels quite far and has influenced the collective work with conscious sexuality for a long time now. And people might not realize that the ripple effects extend, you know, in part from Morehouse. So I understand that it was a live-in commune, or still is, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's known for offering quite edgy, dynamic work, or people might see it like that now. I'm sure it was all very normal for you at the time.
Well, when I first got into it, it wasn't normal. I said, "What the hell is this?"
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But when it started, I think it was 1968 when the first. I think they had a house in Oakland, and then or 1970, they had one out in Lafayette, which still exists, where the main campus, called it campus because it became a university, accredited by the state for about 15 years. So I got my doctorate at the time. And so when I found out about it, I just in the early 1973 is when I stumbled onto it. I wasn't deliberate about it. I wasn't looking for that. I just stumbled onto it. I said, I like this is interesting, but it was also freaky because I was kind of a scientist as we talked about. Uh, so, and there's only a few people living in the house. It was summertime. Everybody was in California. This is back in Brooklyn. They had like 88 houses around the country,
Wow.
written up in the Wall Street Journal as the Colonel Sanders of communes at the
Right.
building franchises all over the place. But now there's only a couple left.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And so I understand that it's been a collective of dedicated practitioners, and it's like you developed your own language and research and methods, and
Yeah, I
the
think the guy who started
attention.
he kind of made he was like the game maker, and he created a lot of the games, and we were kind of like his guinea pigs, and we learned a lot. And then some people branched out on their own, some people stayed. So and then people who they taught other people who branched out, and we've taught people who branched out. So it's like it's reaching Bali. Oh
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. And in the method, there's quite a bit of concentration on communication and consent and basically awakening agency and desire in the woman and female sexuality. Is that right?
yeah. I think that was the basis. Is yeah, kind of having women be freer than they were. You know,
Yeah, well, that's been so needed, and it still is.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
historically, with women not being encouraged to have a voice at all, let alone, really express their felt sense and their desires, it's very important work for humanity, much more than it might seem on the surface to people. Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah, pleasuring women. I guess the first live demonstration was 1976, and it was like a 3-hour demonstration of an orgasm, and that's what Vera was there, and she said when she saw this, is I want that, and she was like a suburban housewife with 2 sets of twins living, in a big house, but her husband agreed, and they enrolled in the course that developed a little bit later. By 1980 she got certified in doing the demonstration. She was certified before I was,
yeah, wow.
but I was like one of her favorite practitioners because she was still married. But then her husband and her separated. We became lovers and
I see.
friends. Getting.
Yeah, yeah. And something I noticed also about you, Steve, is we were talking before about monogamous relationship or long-term committed relationship. And it's not so common to see that these days around intensive pleasure practices. There seems to be a lot of non-monogamy and, polyamorous paradigms. And I noticed that yourself and your teachers and some others in the community tended to focus on having a primary relationship or a marriage or a monogamous relationship. Um, yeah. Do you see benefits to that you want to share about?
I'm not sure because I never really was. I mean, I had lovers, but everything's out in the open. It wasn't like we were nobody was no secret affairs. And then when Vera and I moved, like the past, I don't know, 25 years, I've had students, but I haven't really had any lovers. So I don't think I'm not against the other possibility. I'm open to whatever, but I don't think Vera was, I guess, what didn't have appetite for that. So I was following her desires.
And her desires was just being with you sexually, is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
wasn't interested in the other man, and I gratified her in plenty, so she was she was happy.
Good. Yes.
And when she died, like a little over about a year and a half ago, and I thought this is a great love, and I don't think I'll ever find love again. Except I have. I found a new love. I'm in a new relationship, and she's also kind of likes monogamy. So
Interesting.
I still do clients, but I seem to just have one main squeeze at a time.
Yes, I see. And
Also, I'm not into intercourse. I like pleasuring people with my fingers. I like them pleasuring me with with their hands. So
you,
a
you
lot,
mean
a lot of women have intercourse and just to get the guy off their back. They really not. The guy, most men don't know how to pleasure a woman,
this is true?
and most women, some women know, but most women probably don't know themselves how they like to be pleasured. And I think self pleasuring is really, really important. I wrote a whole book on self pleasure. I have it right here.
Yes.
It's that I really think people should become the best lovers of themselves. And if you do that first, then you can add on somebody else. Or if you have somebody else, still become a great lover of yourself and then teach them how you like it.
Yeah. Yeah, and if we go back a little bit, did I hear you say that you're not that into intercourse? Is that what you said?
I'm not. As I haven't been. I'm sure, if there's the right appetite or desire, I could be aroused. But on my own, I don't really care if I do or if I don't.
Interesting. So that tells me how much pleasure you really do derive from the method that you teach.
Oh yeah, I mean it's amazing. You feel a lot more than with intercourse. Intercourse is, you know, it's erotic. It, you know, it's but it's really coming down. You really when you when you're doing manually, you can bring somebody up and up and up. When you have intercourse, it's kind of like to get off and climax and get it over with. Yeah,
Well, and it doesn't have to be like that, but it often is like that. And that's
yeah,
relevant to the patriarchal sex conversation, isn't it?
yeah. I think we're heading in that direction.
But I have never actually come across a man saying that he's not that into it. This is new for my ears to hear
Right.
this. Yeah. Yeah, how fascinating. And actually, I heard you share, if it's okay for me to mention this, about Vera, who's also a doctor as well, right? A similar,
Well, she got her doctorate, same as I did, but
same
she was,
place. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes. The way that you talked about her, Steve, because I understand that she's been passed away for a few years now,
just a year and a half.
or a year and a half, okay. And that she had a condition towards the end of her life, of Alzheimer's.
Yes, they wrote two books about it.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. Pleasure and Alzheimer's. I've never heard those two things put together
The
before.
book is called Love and Alzheimer's. The Never Ending Love is the last one that I published after she passed away.
The way that I heard you talk about that process of being with her to the end, I imagine, and the taking care of her, and you said you continue to see her as your muse right up until, you're totally basically being like a nurse, I imagine, the level of caretaking that it requires. And
More like a mommy, I think, or a daddy.
okay,
And
sure, sure.
doing doctors, feeding, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I meant to say, you were present to all of that. You did that yourself. And so the level of love and care that you've got to have to
Well, she made it
yeah.
easy. I don't know. I don't think I'd be doing this with everybody.
Sure, sure, of course.
She was like she was easy to take care of. She was like in a good mood. She wasn't. Some people with Alzheimer's get angry and upset.
Uh,
But she never got to that place. She didn't always know who I was, but I always reminded her, by being playful and then, and enjoying those times too. She'd say like, "Who are you?" I say, you know, "I'm Prince Charming and I'm here to kiss you." Things like that. And I kiss her, and she like, "Ooh," She so make it a game out of it, make it as much fun as I could, and became actually a fun ride to the
that's so inspiring and incredibly beautiful to hear, Steve. And you mentioned writing poetry about her as well and about the experience. And this, so even though you said you were following Vera's desires around monogamy, having that container for your relationship, to have this experience, of the level of love and care and attunement to each other, that usually doesn't develop outside of a really committed partnership. So there's so much value in the way that you've lived that, in how I see it. I'm someone who's experienced a lot of alternative relating, And so I know the advantages to a polyamorous paradigm and the growth, especially the emotional autonomy that comes with it. But depending on how someone's doing it, of course, that can also have a lot of limitation. Um, like what was once our medicine can become our poison kind of thing. And just like how in unconscious or contracted one-on-one monogamous relationship, people can tend to hide from themselves in each other.
Right.
And it's
Actually, my my
similar.
my new girlfriend, she's not that new anymore, but she's still pretty new. We're writing a book now, and we're teaching people, and we call it PARN, PARN method. And it's about creating deeper intimacy, more romance, and better relationships. And PARN is an acronym for playfulness, attention, revealing, and noticing. So we write, there's many ways to be playful, there's many ways of noticing, and so the book is, we've been doing this for months now, and it's been a fun ride. She's very playful. She loves to communicate. We live well, quite a far apart. She lives on the East Coast. I live on the West Coast. So
Okay.
we visit each other, but a lot of times we communicate by phone or with video or texting. So we have to be. I think I've learned how to actually, because Vera and I we can have more silent communication sometimes,
Yeah.
but that wouldn't work if you're long distance with somebody.
No. That's true. So PARN, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You have to reveal who you are, and not just to do it carte blanche. You got to do it by noticing where they're at before you can reveal something. Are they ready for it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's
So
what
the reason we called it porn actually was it's kind of funny. I was visiting Shane for the first time in New York last November, and I just written a book called Boy Meets Girl, Loving Kindness. So it's all these different short stories about different men meeting women of all ages, some older, some seniors, some young people. And she said, "What's the common thread? How do they get to meet each other? How they get more romantic and more intimate?" So I said, "Well," so I gave those four letters. I said, "Well, playfulness, having attention on the other person, revealing themselves to them, and then noticing how you're revealing in your attention and how your playfulness is, how they're responding to that. Is it landing or is it going, they're pulling away from you?" And she says, porn, not porn, porn. So we thought she's
that,
playful, which makes me laugh. And I
yeah,
go,
yeah,
and
that's beautiful.
giggling is a good way to become more intimate.
Yeah. Yes, for sure, for sure. And there's a level of heart development that I'm hearing running through everything that you're sharing that can sometimes not be attended to in the same way. Um, like overall in the conscious sexuality movement, if you like, from my immersion into it, which is close to 30 years actually,
Um,
um,
you,
I
you're,
think there's some
you're
imbalance.
2 years old, right? Or something.
What's that?
You must have started when you're 2 years old, right?
No. I'm seeing much more emphasis on the sexual center of freedom and exploration than heart. And I understand that the time that it takes to unpack something that was so locked down takes the time that it takes. So it just is what it is. But I do notice that in a lot of the different group work and circles that I've been involved in. And I love all of the erotic eros exploration. Like I'm completely on board for that. But when it happens not in parallel with the same level of awakening and development at the heart level, I can see that this is an evolution in process, basically. And it's different when your primary practice is, the method that you work with, the clitoris stroking method. Because if someone doesn't have that and their main way of connecting is sex, then
When you
the
say sex,
penetration sex,
yeah,
right? And of course, there's a lot of different ways that that can be done. It can be done in a very typical pornographic influenced way, which is pretty disconnected. Or it can be done in a much more conscious, heart connected, and full body, full being awareness kind of experience. Yeah, especially for a woman, because we have so much sensitivity and changes around how sex feels, how our bodies feel through different phases of our cycle. And also, like sometimes just following the organic current that wants to move and being with the intelligence of that rather than imposing something from the outside always. And I know that you would appreciate what I'm saying, because when you're creating space for a woman's energy to fully flower open, rather than, bringing a series of things towards her that she's navigating around, rather than being able to even experience her own full arousal process, then there's a lot of override that women typically experience with sex, because probably the main complaint from women is not really ever experiencing enough time to feel what it's like, their own arousal, uninterrupted, their own arousal, which you've entirely focused on for women and women's bodies, which is fantastic.
yeah. I mean, the women that I trained with, they learned how to get off, how to start having an orgasm before being touched, just by putting their attention on their genitals. And then, as you see in the video, it gets more and more intense as it goes along. But the whole ride is an orgasm. It's not like waiting to get to the orgasm.
Yes.
And most people don't have that, or have not trained their bodies to feel that way.
Yes.
So it's something you have to learn to do or practice. Some people are more natural at it than others. But you can have fun just touching somebody's thigh, or somebody's, you know, I like legs. So some people like, men like breasts, but I like thighs or legs. Just touching that turns me on. So,
Yes. And
and
there's
and and if she's feeling pleasure from wherever I'm touching, I can feel her pleasure,
exactly.
and it gets recycled back to each
Yeah.
other.
Yes, there's a circulation between both of your bodies, right?
Yeah,
And the energetic tantric bodywork form that I learned and practiced for a long time was not focusing on genitals at all, actually. It was
right.
focusing on the energy centers, and just like what you're saying, so you could put your hand in any one location and encourage that person to bring their attention there, and they'll start, tremoring and having whole body orgasm just from the inside of their wrist, or, their little finger, or anywhere actually. And and hours of traveling with that. There was a process to it which had more involved, but there wasn't even any direct genital stimulation for all of that to happen, or there didn't have to be, at least.
Yeah, like my girlfriend, my lady, I guess you call my beloved, my lady. She's this theory where people learn differently, and she's like a verbal learner. So if I'm just touching her, I'm not saying anything, she's feeling less. If I start, giving her some fantasies, or telling her what I'm doing, and being playful, but talking more, she gets more turned on by that than actually the touch itself. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, like very audio erotic connection for
Yeah.
her. Yeah. So, Steve, just in case anyone needed a reason beyond how good pleasure feels to have more pleasure in their life and to decide that, what are some of the benefits from the research that you've done, which I understand is probably very hands-on research, of how it actually affects people to
Well,
go into these states?
I mean, you're not going to live forever, but I think you'll live more pleasurably. But like for Vera, for example, like she got ill, she got dementia, but I think because she was able to be pleasure oriented, she took a pleasure oriented viewpoint, whether it was deliberate or just her brain had changed, so that she could enjoy the process of, you know, not having a memory.
Mm.
She could still, and she could, until the last couple of years, she could still have really good orgasms. The last couple of years, I think with Alzheimer's, you kind of digress in age. So she became like, like a baby, and babies, mommy wouldn't like that kind of, doesn't want me to do that. So it was harder to seduce her to have pleasure as she got younger.
Wow, how beautiful that her um the somatic connection already established in her was so fluent to continue even when she was obviously not consciously present to it. It was just available and her energy was flowing that way.
Yeah, and I think people have pleasure and who are optimistic live better lives.
Yeah.
Obviously, it makes sense,
Yeah.
and I think it's good for your health. It's not going to cure diseases. It's looking at cancer. It's looking at
Yes.
but I think it won't affect you as negatively as most people.
Yes. Yes. So optimism is an outcome that you've seen from people having more pleasure running through their bodies.
Sure. I mean, if yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that they're happier people. There's a number of ways to become happy. Though a lot has to do with your brain chemistry, but I think having pleasure is one way of getting the endorphins flowing and feeling better about your daily activities and doing. I like to do things with as much pleasure as I can. You know, so I'm
Yeah.
taking care of Vera. Like there were some struggles, difficult things to do. Like one time she broke her pelvis,
Oh,
and and she had like a commode next to the bed. So actually, she learned how to walk pretty soon after that. But the first day or two, she couldn't walk. She could just barely stand up. So I like hold her and to sit her on the commode. You had to turn her around. So what I did, instead of just holding her, I'd hold her in my arms and I danced with her. So we did this little dance number, and it made it more fun to do. So I try to bring as much pleasure to each activity as you can. I think is a and you become more present by doing that too. I think.
absolutely. Yes, yes. And I understand that you would have worked with many women, many students in the practice at Morehouse. And what was some of the,
Morehouse, we had all these students who came to us
yes.
through Mama Gina. A lot of them came through Mama Gina. She's sent
Ah,
her sister goddesses to come to California. Well, actually, Vera and I used to go to New York. We did demonstrations there, and we have days and days of clients. She was good at getting people in front of us.
that's great. I had no idea how involved she was.
Yeah. And in Morehouse, too, we had quite a few students come by and take courses. But there, There was like a whole sensuality department that developed. So they had like a student would come and then they'd see one teacher or one couple teacher, or actually usually like two women and a man they'd see. And then the next time they see two different people and they had to write it up, and the teachers had to write up the sessions too to pass it on to the next teachers. So it was pretty involved. But Vera and I didn't have to write it up because we had seen the student the day before, like, previously, so we knew where they were at.
Yes, yes. And in terms of before and after the sessions that were happening, from your observation of, there's so many different types of patterns and people, right? But what are some of the kind of typical things that you might notice about a woman before and then after?
Well, it depends. I mean, as I said, some women are more natural to it, and will, after
Yeah.
one or two sessions, they can really start flying, and other people take longer. But what I did notice is when women, like when they climax and has like that the old fashioned orgasm, the 9 to 12 contractions, that was it, and then they didn't want to be touched anymore. If that happened, the rest of the day wasn't as much fun for them. And if you left them at a high level,
Yes.
peaks, and they had orgasm, but they weren't like, they didn't reach that final climax. So the rest of the day, they could feel their genitals more, they had more pleasure during the day. So it became more enjoyable.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's men too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I understand that there was a version of the practice for men as well, but there's an emphasis on it being for women. So I'd love to hear from your perspective why that is.
Well, I think otherwise it would be like some kind of prostitution more. It was illegal. Plus, I don't know if people would pay to see a man being pleasured. Maybe now they would, I don't know. But back then, people really weren't interested in that. Men, plus, men weren't. I think women seem to have these long, extended orgasms a lot easier than men did.
Mm.
Uh, and it's more visible when the woman's contractions. With the men, I know I can be peaked a number of times, but I don't think I want to be on stage for an hour doing that. It doesn't seem.
Sure, sure. And what about how, well, pleasure and sexuality can be locked down for all people. But what about the difference in the socialization of men and women around that, like a sense of it being women being conditioned to be more reserved in a lot of instances?
I know from I don't know, I'm not sure what you're asking here, but I know for myself, before I really, I mean, if a woman has real desire and wants to touch me and pleasure me, I can surrender to that. But usually, I much prefer to pleasure her first and get her really high before
Yeah.
she, and she doesn't have to touch me at all. I get my pleasure from touching and not being owed anything. Um,
Yes.
my hands are sex organs. They can, they get a lot of pleasure from touching somebody. I'm totally gratified. Now, if she wants to touch me after, a lot of times women will want to touch me afterwards because they feel, I guess, that's it's a fun thing to do. And I'll surrender to that too, but it's not necessary.
To start implementing practical ways to go beyond patriarchal sex in your life, I've created some easy step-by-step, low-cost ways for you to start having that outcome now. These are to elevate relationship with yourself, with a future partner, or to transform the relationship you are already in, whether you're a man or a woman. These practical steps are effective, they're tested, and they are somatic things that you can start today so that you don't default into old patterns that bring the same disappointment and resentments, no matter how long you may have felt stuck in what you don't want. So, see the link in the show notes to register for your guide to going beyond patriarchal sex. Yes, well, going on that, it's something that a lot of men haven't had the chance to feel. They haven't given themselves the chance to feel when a woman is so wide open, so expanded that she wants to come towards him with a force of desire that a lot of men haven't really experienced because they're used to imposing an experience onto her without giving her the time and space to let her energy fully expand.
Yeah, he's got to become a craftsman. He's got to learn the skill how to pleasure her, and then she'll open up. I think before that, she'll just do it out of guilt or out of get him out,
Obligate.
get it over with, kind of thing. Or a lot of times women will just have intercourse with the guy just to, so he stops bothering her.
And that's such a shame. That is such a shame. I mean, intercourse is such a profound experience, and for it to be treated as far less than what it really is,
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a loss to both people. Yeah. And so when you saw this theme and this title, Beyond Patriarchal Sex, Steve, I'm curious what your thoughts were about that when you first saw that name.
Well, I wasn't sure what patriarchal sex. I looked it up, and I so it was like men were dominant, and the women subservient. Kind of that's what it said about it. So I'm still not quite sure. I'm pretty sure that's what you mean, but I think that's what you mean.
Well, the thing is, this whole project is inviting people to share their sense of what it means, not just to listen to mine. Because even if someone's never heard that term before, patriarchal sex, exactly, everyone seems to know what it means, oftentimes without looking it up, right? Because, um, I mean, you've had a very unique life experience. You are very
You know,
different
I've
from most men.
shielded, I've been shielded from a lot of this stuff.
You're so not the typical man, so
No,
it's maybe tricky to ask you about typical things in that case.
I think I'm an average Joe. My girlfriend said you're definitely not the average Joe.
Well, the thing is, that points to how every man has the capacity to develop himself just the way that you have.
Yeah, when I was married when I was 20, my first wife, and I knew nothing about pleasuring a woman. I'd never even heard of the word clitoris. This is back in 1970. And she never mentioned clitoris. She never showed me or told me what she liked. We had intercourse, and I don't remember doing even that very often. We didn't have a whole lot of sex. We did a lot of cuddling and kissing, but we didn't have much. I never touched her with my fingers. I didn't know where to touch. Maybe I stuck my finger in there. I don't know, but I was like totally. I had grown up and I had mostly guys as friends, and I was kind of shy with girls. So when I found out about this information, I said, yes, I want this. So I learned, and I learned, and I've been doing that like for 50, like I said, 50 years now. So my first,
Yes.
yeah,
And I really felt you when I heard you say, I want this, right? Like it arose in you as your own desire, not just to try and get something or not try to try and be with a woman that you liked. Like you were in touch with your own desire and agency to step into that part of yourself.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what it takes. Yeah.
yeah. And I think it takes a woman, to, to keep me going at it too. I don't know how long I would have kept on going at it without Vera around.
Right,
Yeah,
right. So
maybe back in the laboratory, with a white coat.
so there's the Steve Bodansky before this sexual exploration and the Steve after, and the Steve before when you didn't really have education on female pleasure. Can you remember, can you describe what that was typically like for you from your perspective?
I think it was scary, or I didn't know what to do, so I usually did nothing.
Wow.
We didn't talk about it. I didn't ask questions about it.
Yeah.
Didn't ask questions about it or to say, and I'm a really curious person, but I was kind of like, that was like, you know, something too scary to talk about back then.
Yeah. Yeah. And what kind of year time frame are we looking at when you say that? Like in the 60s and the 70s?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't start dating until I was like probably my first year in college. I was 17. So I was a virgin until I met my wife.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I want to ask you this because it's
There
not something that
was, there was no, go ahead.
no, please finish, please finish.
There wasn't like a whole lot of information. There wasn't any, courses that you go to back then. At least I didn't know of any. There was no internet to check things out. There's some Joy of Sex, I think, book, but I don't think that is, Masters and Johnson wrote a book, but that was pretty basic stuff.
Exactly right. The Joy of Sex did the rounds for quite some time. So this is pre-internet. And there wasn't many people exploring to be able to offer education officially, at least. And so um, I want to ask you something that I can't ask most people due to their age. Okay, so the question is, did you get to experience sex before you saw sex? So I'm
Well,
just
I masturbated. I enjoyed that, and I'm not sure what you're asking.
what I'm asking
But
is
I wasn't
different
really
thing.
good. Like masturbation was also kind of just mostly to relieve yourself, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I did like in the beginning, I did it into the toilet, or under the covers. It wasn't like a whole routine of like self pleasuring and looking at yourself and touching yourself all over and making love to yourself. It wasn't making love. It was just wham,
Yes.
thank you myself.
Yes. You develop that extended self-pleasure later on, I imagine.
Oh yeah, much later. Not
Yes.
much. I learned fast. So
Yes. But the question I asked Steve is based on something that Diana Richardson said to me in her episode, if you know who she is.
I'm
Um,
familiar.
she's been
Uh,
teaching about lovemaking for a long, long time also. She's in her 70s now. And
uh,
she said that there are very few humans left on the planet who were able to experience sex in their body before they saw it. Because almost everyone that I get to speak to here in this show and then in life, we're all kind of tainted with this visual projection of what it is or how it should be through movies, through porn, through, like really graphic images that is so not the real thing. And so when people have that implanted into their consciousness, it has an impact. And so the people that didn't have that in their psyche before they were naturally experiencing themselves in their bodies are now few. There's very few left.
I'm not sure where I fit in that category.
Yeah.
So I know I enjoyed myself. I didn't enjoy a woman until till I got divorced from my first wife, and after I'd taken some classes, and then I can enjoy giving pleasure and receiving pleasure more.
Yes. Yes, because when you learn and you can learn the communication around it, it opens up much more free flow of energy, doesn't it? And then you have more sensation, more pleasure,
Way more.
way more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, learn to self pleasure yourself is the way to go, I think, for men and women.
Yes. Yes.
Better you can better you can self pleasure, and the better you can, and then give pleasure, the better you'll be able to receive pleasure too. So it's really good for women to learn how to pleasure their partners too, because that'll open them up more too.
Yeah.
But a lot of women like feel kind of, I'm not how much now, but I know back when we first started this teaching, a lot of women felt scarcity about their orgasms.
Mm.
And guys don't feel scarcity because they've been masturbating. They know how to get off. And so women really were more interested in their own genitals and having to be pleasured rather than to pleasuring. But we'd like to teach them that it's really important also that they learn how to pleasure somebody really well, to learn how to communicate better too.
Yes, yes. And what a different experience that is from a woman, I imagine, as a man. Like you're experiencing a woman trying to do that without being in connection with her own pleasure. That's not the same, right?
No,
Not the same experience.
no, I'd rather masturbate.
And Steve, because you are such a long time expert in sensuality and pleasure, and I've got you here, and even though this podcast is mostly listened to by men, sorry, women,
Huh.
um, but it's also hard to read with the stats behind the scenes, actually, because a lot of women listen to it with their partners.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they say, hey, Joe, listen to this.
Yeah, and it's opening up discussions so that women can feel like they have more permission and more nuances to speak to and to open up with each other. Because there is a lot of shame and trepidation talking about desire and depth of sensation, and especially for women in owning desire and pleasure. And that's what I was getting at earlier when I talked about the socialization difference in men and women, where typically, at least, I know everyone's different, different contexts, but there's a bit more social permission for men to be in their naturalness in a way, even though there is definitely suppression for everyone around sexuality, or there has been. But women have a particular kind of uh, conservative programming or a sense of just being adaptable and to orientate around a man's experience and to not really center her own at all. And so that's a pretty typical level of conditioning that even now women are still meeting in their process of opening up. Yeah.
Right. Well, women that we meet, our students, they're like they're more open minded, I guess. They want to learn about how to receive pleasure more. So,
Yeah.
but I believe, I don't know too many of these other women, but I know they're out there.
But actually, maybe it's because of the nature of the inner work that I do as well, but I get to hear the undercurrents of the conditioning. Even if they really want the experience,
Yeah.
there's contraction that link back to these collective places.
Well, you have to train. You have to train your partners, and you do that. You do that in like when Vera first got married. Her grandmother gave her a book, How to Train a Poodle, and Vera didn't have any dogs. She didn't have a poodle. And what she meant by that was like he's training with positivity. So you don't yell at the guy, you dummy, you don't know how to do this. Because guys are dumb, and most guys are dumb, and most women are angry because of the patriarchal. um, life that we've grown up with.
Right.
So, but you do have to, if you're able to get over your, anger, but you can train your partner to touch you just like you like to be touched.
Yes.
And you do that with like, yes, that's good, or if it's not good, you say, that's really good. I do a little lighter, a little more to the left, and you give them certain training techniques we teach that really make it simple. Simple.
Yes. Yeah, simple is good. And the depth of the work that I've been doing with women is not partner work, actually. It's more about themselves and their own body and their own energy. But with this project, because I've worked with men a lot in the past too, it's coming back around to have a way for there to be connection and focus on that once again. And so I just heard you acknowledge patriarchy and the effects of that. I'm wondering if you can say a little more how you see that.
Well, I know like there's a course that we did at Morehouse called the Man Woman course. And what some of the lines from that were that, uh, you know, when a man is, when a boy, when it's a boy, yay, it's a boy. And when it's a girl, it's a girl, And
Yeah.
boys were like boys think they're like the best, and women were like second best. So
Mm.
you're second best, and there's only two. That means you're the worst. They're like become like women were second class citizens for you know for
Yeah.
years, and only now they're starting to not be second class citizens. But a lot of places they still are,
Yeah.
and because men think they're like the cat's meow or whatever, the parents love them most. Not everybody, but a lot of majority of the time, they don't like question things. They don't question things. They just take everything as kind of status quo. It must be true, right? Well, women are more inquisitive. Why is he getting money for medical school? Why do I have to go to get a job, whatever? I have to be a housewife.
Yeah.
So women are angry about that. So we say men are dumb because they don't question anything and they become actually, you know, they're not really questioning life. They're not really seeing how things really are. And women can see how things really are and they don't like it. So
Yes.
a lot of women are angry.
Yes.
So when you're angry, it turns away. It takes a lot away from your turn on because there's a lot of turn on and anger have similar physical attributes, except there's no wet pussy involved. But you get
Interesting.
flight phase, you get heartbeat increase, your skin may perspire.
Yes. Anger and frustration and resentment are things that I witness a lot falling away from women's bodies, actually. And
Yeah.
I've heard you say it like it's not that men intend to be mean or to cause harm. It's just in the language that you're saying it, they're just dumb. And
They're
so,
dumb, but they don't look at it. That's why women used to train them to smarten them up.
yeah. So where patriarchy comes into this, and if I kind of say it in my own words, what I understood from you as well, it's like the social paradigm is set up a bit more to benefit the male. And because a male doesn't experience the detriment of that system, he's quite happy
Yeah,
for it.
but everybody loses. Everybody becomes unhappy because of it. It's not like there's a winner and a loser. I think everybody's a loser here. And in reality, everybody can become a winner.
Exactly, exactly. And that's a big part of this message here with this project, that it
Yeah.
negatively affects everyone. But in order to dismantle it or dissolve it or investigate it and have an inquiry into it, often men won't be the first ones to look at that because they're not experiencing the detriment of it as acutely at first, at least.
Very true. I totally agree.
Yeah. And that's why the majority of this audience is female.
And also, I mean, and each woman is different. So, like, I'm with a different woman now than I was with Vera. So I can be pretty dumb sometimes with her. What wasn't done with Vera. So she's got to, hip me to, what she wants and what's going on with her, and treat her the way she wants to be treated. And I can learn, but she has to do it, in a nice way, so I don't like
Yeah.
crumble.
Yes. And that says so much, Steve, actually, because, PhD in pleasure, so many years of experience and immersion and teaching. And but then you're with a new woman and you realize that there's so much you don't know because every woman's energy and body is different, right? There's a lot to learn.
Yeah, yeah, it's a new adventure.
Yes, yes. And this is what I was getting at earlier in terms of a paradigm for relationship or a container for relationship, because while there's a lot of benefits in not having a, one-on-one committed relationship as well, you don't really get to explore those nuances in depth, especially for the female experience of sexuality in particular, because there's so much fluctuation and so often. And when you're getting to know a woman like you are with your current beloved, you're coming into a level of attunement with her that if your energy was scattered around all different places, it might not have the same attention.
I think that's definitely how she feels, and I'm getting in agreement with that too.
Well, you've been living it, Steve. You've been doing that more than I have, so you tell us.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's right on.
Yes, so you understand that socially, politically, patriarchy is a thing. You understand that there's been a certain conditioning that the men typically have, a certain conditioning that the women typically have. And like many other guest speakers here, you've put forward that self-pleasure to move from masturbation, say, to self-pleasure is a really foundational way to get into the beyond of patriarchal sex. Is that right?
Yeah, I think masturbation you know, is part of self pleasure. It just has a bad, people have bad references to it. You
So
know,
what's your definition then?
well, I rather call it self pleasure. You know, we have one of the exercises called masturbation for pleasurable effect, where you're not really trying to have an orgasm, you're just trying to have as much pleasure with each stroke. And that's really the way to go, I think, with everything, is be present as you can, be in the moment, and feel as much as you can in that moment. And and when you of course, it's like a meditation. That's, I think, this, the orgasmic meditation came from. So when you when you're mindful, you notice when you're not present anymore, and you come back, put your attention on your genitals, or put attention wherever you're touching yourself, or where you're feeling the pleasure, and it's a great mantra.
Yes, yes. And is Buddhism something that's featured in your spiritual life?
It is. I think it helped me a lot on taking care of Vera,
Wow.
being more present. And my self pleasure book started off. I was going to write a book, basically on stimulating yourself and pleasuring yourself and touching yourself and other ways of pleasuring yourself. But it developed into like different philosophies, Buddhism and Hinduism, and what the self is, what the self isn't, and and happiness. So the book is called Self Pleasure: Delving into Happiness and Ourselves. So it really, delves into like what causes us to be happy, how we can become more happy, what our self is, what our self isn't, and also including a lot of some scientific information about our nervous system and our skin, and also about self-pleasuring and writing it up. And I have different people, different journals, from a man's point of view journal and a woman's journal. And I wrote one novel. There's this actually a science fiction novel called Orbit, um, Looking for Libido, I think is the title of the book. It's in the future, and there's everything's kind of wonderful, except people aren't having really much sensual pleasure anymore. So there's this one group of women who have been carrying along a lot of this information that we teach, and this one girl finds out about it. She's a young rocket scientist. She finds out about it, and she starts self-pleasuring, and she teaches her boyfriend how to pleasure her. So I know where I was going with that, but anyhow.
Well, I mean, it sounds like a potential future reality that could be more than a fantasy novel, you know?
Yeah, and AI gets involved, and they want to like put the kibosh on it, but then they realize that it's a good thing. So it's kind of a happy ending.
Sounds like a good read, Steve.
It's fun writing that kind of stuff for me. And some good central information in my novels too.
Okay, amazing.
And that
Amazing.
and I self published them, and they haven't sold a whole lot like the first few books did.
Okay, okay. And will you have a video demonstration of the practice that you t teach still, I think? You still offer sessions, right?
I do.
Yes.
Prefer couples or single women.
Hmm.
Um, Single men, occasionally, I have like a friend who's trained with me at Morehouse who doesn't live there, and she'll do sessions with me on occasion for men and for couples too. I like to have her around. It's good to have another woman around.
Yeah.
So I'm training my beloved also, but she's not quite there yet.
Okay. How long do you think it typically takes, maybe especially for a man, to learn the level of attunement in his hands and his fingers and, you know, actually be able to open a woman's whole being through her body like a flower in full bloom? Because this is what women would love to be feeling more.
Well, it depends how much he practices. I mean, it takes time, but and you can train also somebody from pleasuring somebody. So you can ask them questions. Would you like it lighter? Would you like it harder? Would you like it more to the left? Would you like it more under the hood? Would you like it, So you ask questions, and then you go small increments to doing that. And then you ask again until you get it exactly the way the person wants it. So you can train somebody from that. And I think it takes time. Like if you take private sessions from us or from some people who teach these things, you'll learn faster. If you read my books, you'll learn faster than on your own. If you watch the demonstration, you'll learn faster. If you watch on the video. But again, each person's different. Some people can take years. Some people could take like a couple weeks. So it really depends.
Yeah. Yeah. And your links to your books and your website and your video demonstration that people can buy and be able to see, which is, very educational and explicit actually for anyone that wants to see. We'll put all that here for everyone to follow up with. And just before we go, Steve, in terms of, I mean, you've been living in the beyond of patriarchal sex for the vast majority of your life, you know? So, I mean, there's so many men that maybe feel a bit overwhelmed or intimidated or, like they don't want to admit that they don't know everything and places like that. So what would you like to say to men that are considering, or their partner at least would like them to consider exploring more?
Um, Learn your craft. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. Not just for you, do it for yourself, not for your partner, do it for yourself because you'll
Yeah.
like yourself better. And you
You'll
have to
love
take, and you
that.
have to take, I mean, if you don't take a risk, you're not going to, you can have fear, but you can still have courage and do it. It's not like rocket science. It's not that difficult. It's anybody can do it. This takes some practice and time, and it's a fun practice. It's not like learning some, I don't know, for me, it'd be like learning a foreign language. It seems like a lot of work.
And
No,
it's immediately life-giving back, I imagine.
yeah, and your woman will be happier and a lot more fun to be around.
Yes, yes. And you've just lived so intimately close to, you know, what happens when you are facilitating real female embodied pleasure, and I mean, it's not just the experience, it's what it opens up, right? And the states of consciousness that you're living in naturally as a result. And I think maybe sometimes people don't consider those benefits, and they have that association with pleasure just being more frivolous, and they don't understand how impactful and profound it actually can be.
It's beautifully said. I don't know if I can add anything to that. I, you know, I think I live my life that way, and I hope to continue to do so until I stop.
Yes, yes.
But
Well,
I think like according to Buddhism, you can't be attached to anything. So you know, but I think loving what you do and doing what you love is how I chose to live.
yes. Yes, and it's actually a little off topic, but I really appreciated when I heard you say it to someone when I listen to a different interview that you did. I think you were, correct me with the words, but this is so important as a message now at this time for everyone to hear, and it was about all the social opinions and stuff, that you're the opinion holder, not the opinion. Do you want to say how
Yeah,
you,
the viewpoint. You're a viewpoint holder. We have
yeah.
we can have like a lot of viewpoints on any single topic, and you get to choose and pick which viewpoint you want to use for each circumstance. So
And the reason I wanted you to bring that forward actually before we close is because there's actually so much unwillingness to connect between men and women these days, a lot of the time, because there's such weaponized, politicized opinions about things and assumptions about each other before there's even a chance to connect. The people have gone nuts with the social programming of social media, right? And so this hands-on, like coming back to the actual real reality, body to body connection that dissolves so much of that. That's how you've lived your life, but a lot of people are in that place where that's not their starting point, and they're full of so much misinformation about each other as men and women. And it can be such a barrier for connection to even happen at all in the first place these days.
well, it's time to learn. Read my books,
Yes, read Steve's books and your embodiment of that
and you're not
detachment.
your viewpoints. You're not your viewpoints. You're just the viewpoint holder.
Yes. And I just want to acknowledge and honor in you, Steve, that your attunement to pleasure and the female pleasure, I see how that's helped fuel your embodiment of these Buddhist teachings and understandings in a way. It's much easier to let go, when you're being held by such a force, that is Shakti, that is female pleasure. And so I imagine that that's a good companion to letting, theoretical understandings or spiritual teachings really inhabit you, you know. When you have so much pleasure circuitry running through your system, there's
I mean, it seems to work for me, but I haven't done it the other way, so I don't really have nothing to compare it to.
yes, yes. You're very subjective in your own experience and honest about that. It's really great.
I
So,
know
yeah,
say pleasure could be addictive, so I don't think you should be addicted to it, but
true.
but you still can enjoy it when you do it,
Yeah,
and can enjoy it by learning your craft, by training your body, training your partner's body. You can have more pleasure, and you don't have to be addicted to it. It's not about addiction.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah. Steve, thank you so much for your time and energy sharing your expertise today. And thank you for your service, all your years of attending to female pleasure.
Right.
And I wish you well with your beloved, and thank you so much for contributing what you have to this project. I'm really grateful.
I appreciate your time and effort and what you're doing too. So it's been fun talking
Thank-
with you, listening to you,
Thanks, Steve.
and enjoy the video.
Yes. Thanks for sharing this episode with your friends if it's moved you. And know that sharing it genuinely does help to spread this message and also to attract more interesting speakers to join the Beyond Patriarchal Sex conversation. And if you're a woman who'd like to get an exclusive discount to the full signature program of how to live beyond patriarchal sex, then write a 5-star review on either Apple or Spotify, take a screenshot and send it in to the email address below to get the reduced rate to the full course called I Broke the Spell. And keep tuning in to these weekly episodes so that we can all be part of shifting division into connection for ourselves and for the coming generations.